There was a point raised earlier about the recent boom, well it was a boom, being based on, perhaps resulting in a lot of inequality. Do we have an idea of how it's going to be possible to unwind this inequality? Because my perception is what we have at the moment is a large chunk of people in the middle who are a lot better off than their parents' generation were. And they are some of the people who are going to get horribly disappointed. People with 2 jobs are going to lose one of them, as you're saying. And are we going to live through that, or is something going to have to change? And is the result, can the result be less inequality in 1 or 2 decades?
It's a tough question. I mean, I think we've been operating on a belief that the economy that we've had would continue to move forward, and now all those assumptions are thrown in the air. And the big break on tackling inequality is housing, actually. It's the assets ownership. Until we sort of change our relationship to our homes so that they become homes, not assets.
Yeah.
So I find hard.
Sorry, can I go back to that? Is this something which I think some people have said? This goes back to the 80s, when a lot of people were encouraged to buy houses with money they hadn't got, and these houses have been cash-generating machines, as you said, rather than homes. I don't know how we can unwind that.
Well, you could change the tax system so that property is taxed very heavily. I mean, it's very hard to avoid property taxes. I'm not saying this would be politically easy, because obviously a lot of people do very nicely out of that. But arguably, you could shift a lot of taxation away from income, onto property, or you could at least do the council tax revaluation, which hasn't been done since whatever 1992, i.e., since the entire boom started. I mean, a lot of people that do advocate sort of return to kind of proper. I don't know where I stand on that, but that's one thing you could do, certainly. I do think that, I think, as you're implying, I don't think the boom was fantastic for a lot of people on the grounds of equality, and even people who are quite comfortably middle class like myself. I mean, my income went up during the boom 1 or 2% a year, so relative to house prices, if it went down, I'm actually doing much better now because my mortgage is cheaper, my taxes are lower, I mean, I might get fired tomorrow, but the boom was not great for, I don't know, 80% of people. I mean, it's better than the recession, but not fantastic for middle income people, and not fantastic, obviously, for a lot of people working in call centres either. I mean, it's still, as Paul quite rightly said, great, all these jobs are created, and maybe not enough credit given for that. But I think some booms are good for a lot of people in society. Maybe the boom in the 50s, for example, a lot of people in Britain got a lot more money, and you can see all the stuff they bought still, in museums. But I don't think that the last boom of the last 15 years was fantastic for maybe the majority of the population. Disappointing in terms of real incomes and.
I think you're right on that. I mean, towards the I covered the Rhys Jones murder in Liverpool, which is, if you remember, it's 2 years ago or a year and a half. Can't remember exactly how long, but it was the summer. So we arrive, and it's a height of the boom then. I mean, you're not talking about credit crunch. There's nothing there, and we just a few of the journalists because you're going into the absolute worst parts of Liverpool, white Liverpool in this case, not high intensity housing, houses with gardens, houses that were perfectly well kept up until about 15 years ago. And we just all looked at each other and said, this is the height of the boom. Yeah. This is the height of the boom. You'd be ashamed of anything that you'd achieved if you hadn't got people out of what it was. Now, what is it that what it was? It's not to do with it, material income. I think we have to redefine inequality here, very and forget the 30s from this point of view. It's you walk into a pawnbroker's shop in any poor working class community, it is filled with the junk of the last 3 years that they've bought. There's no shortage of ability to buy things that are status items or leisure items. The big shortage is any route out to any high earning ability. So you can buy relatively cheaply all kinds of crappy TVs, game stations, cheap jewellery, nail extensions, except whatever you want to buy, really. Your little world is there. The world of Shakespeare is closed off you completely. In a way that I don't want to be nostalgic about the working class of the 30s, the labour movement, but it was a vehicle for taking anybody with 2 brain cells and saying, look, read that, Charles Dickens, read that, Shakespeare, go there, it's a night school. Learn to read, learn to write, become a technician. For God's sake, don't go down the mine. The woman who's running the family in these places can't say, all her hope is that their kids don't get worse than what they are. There's no hope. It's just don't become a criminal, don't become a drug dealer. At least go down the shop and work in Tesco's on the till like me.
That's not true, actually.
Well, go on, what do you think?
Okay, the reason I say that's not true because I was brought up on a council estate. Okay, my daughter's in private education. Okay, and actually you can attain whatever you want with the will to do so. The problem with this country is that the nation, it's the perception of it, is that basically, I've got it written down actually, one second. Basically, the people don't come first. The voice of the people has been absolutely squashed, which is why we've got big brother syndrome at this given moment. What we need to do is actually re-evaluate our values. The fact is that we can trade without money. We can do it through backs. We do not have to buy into this crap at all. I have no idea why we are actually allowing ourselves to be bullied as the nation who, for example, I'm sending my fucking parking tickets to Gordon Brown because why the hell should I pay for my wheel being on a fucking yellow line? They invented it, they created it, and now I'm paying for it? This is crap. I'm not joking. It's total crap.
Actually, I think.
And we're taking this stuff.
It's
actually
us. It's a law, and actually it may not be a law.
It's an unfair law. Unfair law.
I think
created
now,
by people who are screwing us rotten.
Thank you very, very much. I'd very much like you to thank Alfie.
Thank you.
Really, seems to be a really serious investigation. I'm really very, very grateful. And I'm very grateful for you on a Saturday afternoon. Thank you very much indeed.